AyAyAyAi. This is another exciting episode of AyAyAyAi where I am very excited. How about you, Lucky and Josh?
Man, I'm excited to have another day of AyAyAyAi AI. Today we have a special guest from my neck of the woods, from the Department of Veteran Affairs. We have Josh, and he's going to give us some insight on how we're doing AI different and how the technology is helping us improve how we serve veterans and look at data and without getting into it, but the data that really helps us make a difference. So, Josh, welcome.
Hey, thanks. I am very excited to be here today and be a part of this podcast. So I appreciate the invite.
Josh, every episode, we try to bring that excitement into the AyAyAyAi because it captures all sorts of excitement or frustration, right? So some people can say AyAyAyAi. Some days happens, but this week we're definitely excited to have Josh because Josh is going to bring the flavor to the conversation about different topics that is very close to AI and has a lot of good AI use cases. For example, VA, for example, blockchain, for example, metaverse, right? Josh has lots of excitement in his enthusiasm for blockchain technology and technologies that are data related. And anything that's data related that excites me, I can tell you data is not exciting to a lot of people, but it is to me. And that's why I'm here every Wednesday doing this podcast. I love talking about data because if there is data component on anything, it could translate to a good machine learning use case. But do you want to pursue machine learning using your money, your time, and your energy when there is not really that great of a return of investment? Or ROD, return on data, right? Some of the use cases that I'm seeing today, especially with VA, right? VA has a suicide prevention AI, which is helping VA to understand how to lower the cases of veteran suicide, which is near dear to my heart because I'm a veteran myself, and I would not want to hear news of any of my veteran buddies or active duty buddies that has gone through a situation where VA was not able to, detect it early on and help them, not to go through the suicide. So that's a great use case. I am very excited about that because there's lots of data that we can use in order to prevent veteran suicide. And there's lots of data in medical field general because we have patient information, we have health information, and then we have lots of surveys and feedback that we put into the system that we can collect them all and research the data and try to help somebody who might not be aware of their mental situation or physical situation and help them with those data. And what's a better way to present that data into machine learning, right? Machine learning automates this data so that way people are able to capture their diagnosis and learn about their diagnosis and help themselves with those data because now you can take those data home with you instead of having it sitting in the medical record somewhere, right? Electronic health record that is not accessible by a patient. A patient is able to take those data home and do so much with it.
As you had mentioned, one of the premier missions of the Department of Veterans Affairs is veteran suicide prevention, and it's really identified by it's really characterized in its success by identifying veterans who are displaying suicidal ideation and putting one of our care team members in front of them to try to intercept them and provide them the help that we can. In the past, there have been a lot of different ways that the Department of Veterans Affairs tries to capture that sort of information and try to identify suicidal ideation. And We've been doing the best we can for so long, and as technology has continued to evolve and improve, we've been able to really make a significant impact by leveraging the use of AI to target suicidal ideation and intervene with veterans. We have in my office, the National Artificial Intelligence Institute, or the NAI. We have a few different pilots that are currently being run through Washington, D.C. And we're seeing some significant success, and we're hoping to continue to make a difference in turning that around. So as far as use cases, one of the suicide ideation programs that we're using is a natural language processing program that goes through veteran responses in free text to surveys to try to identify sentiment for suicidal ideation. This is much different than identifying just keywords. There may be opportunities to filter words like kill and death, but then when a veteran responds, "That line was killing me, I could die for a Pepsi," right? Then that flags it. And what AI allows us to do by identifying the sentiment in these statements is it allows us to reduce the false positives. And by reducing false positives, we can really make a better and more equipped difference to the contingent of folks that really need it. And that comes from one of our TechSprint winners, SOCAT. And another program that we're currently looking to pilot comes from another TechSprint winner / finalist, like I just mentioned. And they have an app on your phone that passively tracks the data and how you essentially, what applications you're using, how long you're using them, things of that nature. And it actually registers. It registers how likely you are to fall into different categories of mood. So maybe there's anxiety, depression, and how your activity on your phone relates to other people doing those activities. Now, this is still sort of pending, I believe, and it's not quite finalized in the sense that I think we're still awaiting for the contract to be awarded, so I'm not going to say who they are, but just incredible things. And this is just veterans suicidal ideation. Over the past year that I've been with the NAI, I have seen AI applied to imaging, whether it's X-rays, MRIs, CAT scans. I've seen it applied to, and by the way, our office, my office, the NAI, we do tech sprints where we identify a use case, we open it up to the public, we list it on challenge.gov, and we ask people to come and participate. And there are cash prizes, but more importantly than cash prizes, you get to maybe save lives, right? Lives of veterans, make a difference in their livelihood and their day-to-day. And, in addition to just saving lives and winning a cash prize, if you need another incentive, a lot of these opportunities that people find when they compete in our tech sprints is that they find a good relationship with the VA, and potentially opens doors for them from a business or government standpoint, because now whenever they go out and apply for any sort of jobs or any sort of contracts to the government, they can say, I won this prize at the Department of Veterans Affairs doing this thing, right? So right now, and I say all this because right now we have a tech sprint going on for a program called Aspire, and we're looking for another tech sprint probably next year, and or probably early next year. And I expect that it's going to cover like one of the use cases that we discussed today. So I would encourage anyone, by the way, I'll just put a plug in here. I would encourage anyone who is listening, if you have an interest in AI or participating in an AI tech sprint, to potentially save some veteran lives or improve their well-being, and potentially also win a cash prize, please go to www.va.gov and look for, it's under research, the National Artificial Intelligence Institute. And maybe I could convince Asif and or Lucky to put our website up on their podcast. So that's the first thing, right? We do these tech sprints, and some of the people that I'm going to tell you about, including the two I just mentioned, the AI use cases they're solving, they came from these tech sprints. So the first one was suicidal ideation. I mentioned two companies with two different products. that are both, being looked at to make a significant difference. So the next one is imaging. So imaging, like I said, we've been using AI imaging in the VA across the country for to identify things that, or even to assist clinicians in identifying things. Asif and I have spoken at length before about making sure we keep the human in the loop, and that AI
That's
is
right.
not a decision maker, but they are more of a consultant role, especially when it comes to health and well-being. And a lot of the successes that we're seeing across the country are AI imaging professionals, or I'm sorry, imaging professionals, clinicians using AI programs to help them make an informed decision. And that's, it's one of the things that the VA as a whole has mentioned in their AI use cases is imaging. And it's imaging, like I said, so you have your radiological imaging for your X-rays, your MRIs. We have folks that are doing retinal imaging and using AI programs to identify things for retinal imaging. And imaging as a whole, especially with some of the more recent legislation coming out, such as the PACT Act, imaging as a whole is really a burgeoning area in the VA for AI. It's been a very strong area for a while, and it's only going to continue to gain traction. So, to any of your listeners out there who are interested in AI imaging, there's always going to be a place in healthcare, and particularly in the VA, for various imaging programs, especially as they get specialized. A lot of the different types of solutions that we're seeing, they need to be sort of tailored to the veteran population. Whether it's NLP, natural language processing, or whether it's something else, veterans are exposed to much different things. Veterans are also in a community where they express themselves in different ways than your typical civilian population. As such, these off-the-shelf AI solutions from your large organizations, they really need to be tailored to the veteran community. There's a lot of military lingo that we use that may not make sense. A lot of acronyms that we use, so natural language processing is a big deal. But also, veterans are at a higher risk of being exposed to plutonium, chemical agents, biological agents, and not even necessarily because of chemical or biological weapons, just because of where they are. I can tell you this: when I was overseas, I was in Iraq, and we rolled up on this little Bedouin house, okay, a little Bedouin farm, and we were talking with the farmer that lived there. And the question was asked, what happened over there? My squad leader points over to this area off to the side where there were some sheep bones. The farmer says, they all went over there, they ate something, and they all died right there. But we looked at each other. We looked at each other, and the first thing, the word anthrax just got thrown up there, and we're like, all right, it's time to go. Time to go. So you never know. You never know what you're exposed to when you're in places like that, where people have seen where people have seen these terrible tragedies and war-torn areas. You just never know. And our veterans are exposed to those things. I mean, obviously, burn pits are something that's been getting a lot of attention. We can look at the 9/11 responders, and the kinds of things that they were exposed to. I mean, I think that they have one of the highest ratings to have lung cancer and breathing problems and heart disease, because they were exposed to things that just nobody else is. They're very few people are around burning jet fuel and melted plastics and burning buildings. It just doesn't happen quite as often as when you're a first responder, emergency responder, military personnel. So I think it's important that we identify that because of these characteristics, these AI solutions that are coming in to be presented to the VA specifically, they really need to be tailored and adjusted to accommodate the veteran population. And that's actually why we've been seeing so many great successes come from these small businesses, because they are able to spin up a working product from the ground up. They're a small business, so they already have a little bit of preference. And those are the people that seem most interested in our tech sprints, because we're able to make it a bit more worth their time than the big dogs that you hear about in the AI space.
Wow. So you're talking about head to toes covering all sorts of use cases just within the human body. But when it comes to a veteran, VA probably has the largest data set available in many aspects, right? Because Veterans Administration has a huge research and development budget. So I think, with what you just said about TechSprint, it all makes sense that, VA takes initiatives that actually helps the hospitals and healthcare organizations that does not have these kind of bandwidth to have research and development done. And the data that VA can provide to these use cases outside of governmental agencies, like in public and private side, will be highly beneficial. So thanks to VA for taking these initiatives, because when we talk about mental health, you have natural language processing, and here you go with the image where you're able to do better X-ray, better MRIs. If there's a dye that goes through your bloodstream and is able to detect things using visualization, and machine learning is creating that accuracy for that, what's in your bloodstream and what sort of information we need from your blood test. Those are very powerful data sets to have, because now you can take that data for the rest of the world and say, what is this coming from? What's the solution to this, right? We can, look when we talk about like head to toe, you got brain, you got blood, you got body images like bones and stuff like that, and then just the way we live, right? The recommendation that AI machine learning can provide from this data set will be able to say, like, the recommendation is you eat this sort of food, right? Because we've tested you from head to toe. This is the food we recommend for you because you have a specific type of need for diet, right? You have a specific lifestyle that you have to maintain. I mean, look, I can tell somebody, like, don't sit down for 24 hours a day, or just sleep and eat. Don't do that, like do other activities. But if you're able to diagnose it tailored to their needs, boom, you have that happening. So yeah, Josh, I see your eyes just, very excited right now. So what do you got to say about that?
So it's really, you're absolutely right. We even, because of the scope, so I am excited. It's hard for me to get it out, right?
Right.
One of the most important aspects, if not the most important aspect of AI and what it provides us, is a hopefully, right, or hopefully non-biased or minimally biased assessment of large amounts of information. Humans are generally not very good at processing large amounts of information, but we are good.
That's right.
But we are good at generalizing and making decisions in context. Computers are not very good at that. So when you put them together, we really have a recipe for success here. By using AI for what it's good for, which is generally analyzing a large amount of data, we can do incredible things. So one of those things actually is analyzing things like, stool samples, for example, using AI,
right.
and promoting nutritional aspects using AI. And these are just, these are the specific healthcare items, but we can even move it farther, because every place, let's say, every large organization has some sort of structure that needs attention, or some sort of piece that needs attention. So we could even, do something like run through our Veterans Benefits Office paperwork and identify, what could use attention, identify patterns or things of that nature. One of the books that I recently read, and this is not VA specific, but one of the books I recently read was Thinking Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman.
Kahneman, yeah.
And one of the things that he goes over is the biases that people present depending on when they had lunch, and we as people also have this tendency to make decisions that are in comparison to other things going on. So he uses crime in his book, for example, right? So someone who commits a crime may only get 3 months in jail, okay, depending on what the crime is. Maybe they're jaywalking. And then if the judge has already had a jaywalking case that day, or maybe that week, then they're more likely to assign a very similar time frame, a very similar punishment to someone who has a very similar crime. And that's like the comparison bias that we have. Now, the other one is people are generally more inclined to be less generous leading up to lunchtime and more inclined to be more generous after lunchtime. Now, we've analyzed this before with simple things like people have a tendency to be in a better mood after lunch, right? People have a tendency to want to keep their meetings right before lunch shorter because they have something they're preoccupied with. So these are all the human biases that we have to deal with. And those don't go away when we use AI. So we really need to be cognizant of that even if we feed AI good data and we get good results, if the human being is still making the decision, then we have to make sure that we're doing it as fairly as we can. Because even though you can have trustworthy AI, theoretically, right, that's all still being discussed and worked out, but assuming you can have trustworthy AI, then you still are going to need to have an equitable person assigning the decisions or doing the decision making.
Yeah, we've
chop
seen
it
that
up, Lucky.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Then chop it up, Lucky. There's lots to unfold.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen AI bias in the past where I think there was an AI that was designed to help police officers somewhat in areas with policing and helping them, at least address crime in an area. And they found that poorer neighborhoods, because the AI was already had previous data where, I guess cities or neighborhoods that are on the other side of the railroad tracks, because they already had that activity in the data showing more activity in that area, it would feed officers information about biases that those areas have higher crime only because of the data, but it doesn't necessarily represent the actual area, but there's a human bias that was built into the data only because of the amount of data or how the data was presented. So there's always ways where you're going to see human biases somehow come out with AI, and that's great. I mean, for me, that's we're always going to see something like that, but we learn from that. We start to build better systems from that. We start to develop, okay, our human bias is this, just like you said. Now that we know that, we can start to develop against that. I've developed a few things in the VA, and I've talked about it in the past, and it's really interesting that we talk about how AI is helping focus and make things clearer, see things that we're not seeing, and make that more apparent. And the development of those types of technologies is fantastic. Being able to see disease states, help veterans if they're going through PTSD, if they're going through some kind of emotional period, that we're proactively being able to identify that. And that's fantastic. That I've known a lot of veterans that have been affected in different ways, being part of the VA for 20 years, from one thing, like you said, chemical exposures like Agent Orange, to like being out in the battlefield with the burn piles. And for me, it's whatever we can do for the veteran, and I really admire what you're doing. It's fantastic work. I'm only curious to what's going to happen in the future. There's systems now that was just posted here recently. Microsoft is creating a whole new AI cloud initiative. And I know that in the VA, we already tied, and in some cases, the network, a lot of different people already tied to Microsoft. So there's already different machine language models there for us. So I think there's some options there. I'm using that to take advantage of the security side, and hoping in one day that maybe we can also take advantage of that on the medical side. And I know there's a lot of opportunity there just in the news today. And without taking up most of the people, there's new information here recently with Microsoft. Microsoft is in the news like 3 different places with NVIDIA, creating a whole new partnership with NVIDIA so they can provide the right type of hardware for AI and develop a whole new level of processing. They also did another thing. Microsoft made the first classified network with Lockheed Martin. And Lockheed Martin, if people aren't aware, is one of the first to develop an AI factory. So there's a lot of AI news where people are trying to develop and bring out AI, and where maybe a year ago AI was not even a buzzword. It was more like something you saw on TV. And so now it's become more realistic. I have a pleasure, it's a pleasure being able to hear a lot of these initiatives in the VA. Do you guys see it growing anymore, the VA, your team and the VA over the next few years, or how do you see AI growing in the VA?
That's a great question. First, I want to say, and just kind of touch back to what you mentioned, I am both honored and humbled to be on this team, not just my office, but as part of such an incredible mission as we have in the VA. It's still every day I wake up still very proud. I'm a veteran as well. I don't know if I meant, no, I did, but yeah, I'm a veteran as well, and and every day it's a pleasure to continue to do this, despite the government hurdles that sometimes pop up and the red tape. So the first thing is, our office, the NI, is a little bit over 2 years old. So we are still growing, and we're trying to grow in a sustainable but rapid way. And we're looking to branch out and have other, we'll call them strategic centers, strategic NI centers placed through the United States. And I expect that we're going to continue to hire and expand our team in order to support that mission. The next thing is that we are expecting, and I'm not, to be honest with you, I don't recall if this is the VA specifically or the government workforce, but I believe it does affect the VA, that we're looking at over the next 15 years or so, a significant amount of our workforce leaving. And and based on the numbers for both hiring and retention that we've seen, we won't be able to keep up with the people in the VA that are leaving, and that'll include clinicians, administrators, IT folks, all that sort. So the hope is, and this is a big hope on my end, but the hope is that we'll be able to use artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the evolving technologies that they present to us, that we'll be able to use those to help that transition as we see, and if we see this decline in the workforce over time. Some of the things the VA has certainly done right, in my opinion, my personal opinion, is increase the ability to present community care to veterans. So for those of you who may not know, community care essentially is that veterans who go to their local VA or their local VA clinic or local VA hospital, they oftentimes have an option to see a local provider in the community, on the back of the VA's dime. And that was one of the greatest, I think, changes that we've seen over the last so many years. And I'm hoping that we continue to see the VA evolve to address the needs of its community like that, because the expectation is that the VA workforce and the government workforce as a whole is going to see some challenges over the next 10 to 15 years.
Oh man, look, these AI use cases are becoming more abundant after 70 some years of having AI research and AI development. The possibilities are all coming together because we have been collecting data. And one of the issues that we have with data right now is the data privacy, safety, and security. And I want to touch on that real quickly because you have your effort has led to, releasing a paper specifically on safety, privacy, and security of machine learning development. So please shine some light on that, because I think we discussed it over and over, because this podcast, we kind of go into like managing expectation of AI, which could be that it's really bad or it's really great, right? The spectrum is very wide. In between, you have lots of doubts, right? So tell us a little bit more about that paper, safety, security, and privacy of AI machine learning, and what was your thought on it, and how did you get involved with it?
So, so regarding the safety, security, privacy paper, I am affiliated as a CIF as well, and probably lucky, but I'm not 100% sure of your affiliation. But we're affiliated with a nonprofit organization called AyAyAyAi. And within that organization, Steve and I collaborated in the artificial intelligence working group. And in that working group, I was, I was honored to be able to participate in the development of a paper, which Steve spent considerable time and effort on, and that outlines privacy, security, and safety from an AI perspective. So both how to keep AI private, secure, and safe, and about how we can use AI to help improve our individual and group privacy, security, and safety. And it was a tremendous lift, the paper itself. It was, I think we ended up somewhere between 30 and 40 pages of a paper. And the paper itself was in response to the Executive Order 13960 on trustworthy AI, where they released I believe, 9 tenets of trustworthy AI, maybe 7, I can't quite remember. But trustworthy AI is where the paper stemmed from, and we were able to use some of the works that AyAyAyAi had previously completed, such as the ethical AI framework. And we had great thinkers in the group. I think your last podcast guest, or maybe 2 podcasts ago, was Amicia Elliott. She's brilliant.
That's right.
And she basically championed the paper from the privacy group. She wrote the executive summary. And I mean, listen, when you have people of her caliber and talent working on a project like this, then the only way that the project itself is not going to come out excellent is if the other people in the group stop moving forward. And Amy and Asif, you and a few others in the group were able to really drive that motivation and get the paper to completion. So if we have a moment, I can talk a little bit about trustworthy AI and the executive order.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it, because for me, responsible AI and privacy, oh man, we've talked about it at length almost at every podcast. So definitely, yeah, anything you can give us to enlighten us.
All right, so I was going to drop a link in chat for you gentlemen, but I can do that later. So trustworthy AI.
Awesome.
So Executive Order 13960 was issued, I believe, December 2020, and it governs artificial intelligence and how the United States essentially can move forward using tenets described to create basically a framework for artificial intelligence, where it is, I mean, the short version is where it's safe for people to use, and it's safe to be used with people, right? So some of those tenets, for example, are accuracy, reliability, that it's purposeful, that it is safe to use, that it delivers, secure results, or that it delivers reliable results, that it's done in a safe and secure fashion. And trustworthy AI has been a significant driving force for our AI use cases over the last almost year now. So there are a number of requirements that came out of the executive order, such as agencies had to appoint a responsible artificial intelligence official. Agencies had to compile a list of their AI use cases and evaluate whether or not they were fit to be released to the public. And the only way that agencies were unable to release them to the public is if they were exempt from a Freedom of Information or FOIA request, right? Or if they had some sort of you needed a clearance to observe it, right? They were secret or top secret. They had some sort of classification. So So as a result, a number of agencies released their artificial intelligence use cases on a website called www.ai.gov. You can actually look at the use cases that were released and publicized. So the VA had, I think we put out around 50, but I expect we're going to have a significant number more this coming year. All in all, I think the total response was 1,100 AI use cases were submitted. Not
Wow.
not all of them
Love
went
it.
to not all of them went to the public, but this is an annual requirement. So every year, this use case inventory has to be done. The responsible AI official has to the responsible AI official is responsible for going through these use cases and making sure that the AI that is being used to fit the use case is trustworthy in accordance with the executive order. So, I'm proud to say that our director in the National AI Institute here at the VA, Dr. Gil Alterovitz, he's our responsible AI official for the VA, my director, and he is, he has done some tremendous work in both connecting with other responsible AI officials, but also work at the White House, to, we'll say, as an advisor on this executive order, other executive orders, the AI Bill of Rights. And, we're very proud of the work that he does. And we're very proud to be a part of his team because we're getting some incredible, we're setting some milestones, and breaking down barriers as we move forward in this. So, so that's my experience so far with trustworthy AI. We are expecting to, to again fulfill our requirement for this coming year, and I'm very excited to see how other agencies are also tackling this.
Wow. So,
Wow.
Josh, look, some great information there, because not lots of AI enthusiasts or data enthusiast is looking into these kind of initiatives, right? Because they're so focused, right? Like when we talk about data in silos, we have our own brains in silos, right? Our brain wants to hear what it wants to hear, what it wants to do. We want it fast. We want to design and develop quick and deploy and make money right now, right? Not make money, but see the results, see the product at work, right? But it takes a lot of patience, lots of work, lots of effort, lots of energy to do the right thing, right? So we're talking about AI here. We're talking about machine learning. We're talking about data. And one of the components that we don't really much discuss about the other sides of the data, which is, hey, there's layers, there's blockchain, there's metaverse that will utilize data. There's this Web 3.0. I want to say clearly, it's Web 3.0. I'm not talking about Web 3. So like, give us some thoughts on that, if you have the time. But I know you have to leave, but you can stop anytime and be like, hey, I'm out. But give us some thoughts on that.
So I'll leave you with this, and because I do have to go, and I'm hoping that I can come back and maybe better address this one. I'll leave you with two things. Okay,
Oh,
the first thing is that one of the advisors that I had before he retired from government and went over to the civilian side, he once told me that AI is one of the most important tools that we can use in government for the betterment of our nation, and that blockchain is the railroad track to the train that is AI. That being said, so the next thing, right? The next thing is that tomorrow I'm actually going to be speaking at a HIMSS blockchain panel for blockchain for healthcare, and I'm still learning as much as I can as to how blockchain can impact both veteran healthcare and healthcare as a whole. So I'm hoping that maybe the next time you and I speak, I'll have a better, more robust response, because I'll have learned something else from people that that I look up to and have been able to share that with me. So, but yeah. we right now in my office, we are not doing much in the way of using blockchain. That's not a focus of the AI Institute yet. Maybe it'll change. But I will tell you that we do currently have a contract in place that does use blockchain um, to help facilitate some interoperability. So I'll just leave that as a little teaser. Maybe we can talk about that another time.
Man, we're so looking forward to having you come back because once you join AyAyAyAi, there's no way, you can forget us, right? You'll always want to come back because you're so excited and thrilled about AI machine learning and want to come back and tell us all about the future developments that are happening. So yes, absolutely. You're already invited. Just put that on the calendar somewhere, With that, Lucky, some departing thoughts, and then maybe Josh can give us some of his departing thought, then we'll cut this off.
Yeah, well, I'll keep it short. Just Josh, you and Nye and the VA, sounds like you're doing it right. You're laying the groundwork. Yeah, I'm an old developer. I'm an old data warehouse manager, and so I know a little bit about data, and so I really like what you're doing. The best of luck to you and everything that you guys do, and I'll be supporting you and cheering for you, and hopefully we'll see each other again, like you said, on another podcast. But thank you for being with us today.
Hey, thank you very much, Lucky. I appreciate that. It was great to meet you. And I look forward to hearing a little bit more about your VA work, because I was not aware of that leading up to this call. Steve kept you a secret from me. So,
oh, he's a gold. He's a gold.
So parting thoughts. You hear and see a lot of things in the news, because the media is designed to bring you. It seems like nowadays the media is designed to bring you a lot of things that are potentially somewhat alarming, because they have access to near instantaneous, infinite information, and there are a lot of alarming things that happen in our world. And I think that it's important to take a few opportunities like this to really identify and be proud of the positives that are happening, because there are a lot of things surrounding new technologies, how it could be used for negative aspects, whether it's war, whether it's theft. And it's really great to be a part of an organization that is using these still developing, burgeoning technologies to bring health, wellness, and peace to such a disenfranchised group of people. So just thank you for giving me a platform that I could speak to that.
AyAyAyAi. Thank you, Josh. And then thank you, Lucky. Until next time, we'll meet you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.